Michigan in 2027 is going to reflect someone's values. Why not ours? I'm honored to be joined today by Tim Gol, State Director of Americans for Prosperity, Michigan. We're going to talk about the issues relating to 2026. We're going to talk about May Millage. We're going to talk about the upcoming special election in the Senate District 35 in the Saginaw Bay area. And we're just going to get right to it. As always, I'm James David Dixon. I'm your host. This is the James Dixon Podcast, and we're here for a good time, not a long time. Tim, thank you for coming out today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's just start at the very beginning. There's going to be some people who are seeing your face, hearing your name for the first time. Who is Tim Gol, and what would you have them know about Americans for Prosperity, Michigan?
Sure. Tim Gol, lifetime Michigan resident, was born in the Ann Arbor area. Business owner for 25-ish years, building and remodeling homes. Got involved with politics. I ran for office for the state senate. Was not victorious in that, but through that effort, I was endorsed by Americans for Prosperity.
Okay.
And all the things that led up to that, I won't get into all the minutiae of that, but I when the race was over, I decided that I did not want to give up on all the connections I've made, the impact I thought I could have. And Americans for Prosperity is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan grassroots advocacy group. They had an opening. I applied for it after much discussion with my wife and family of getting out of the construction business. Sold my half of the business to my brother, got a job with AFP, originally hired as the grassroots director, and then subsequently was promoted to deputy state director and now the state director. Love what I do. It's an opportunity to work at the state and the federal level to make, try to make politics work for people, reduce the size and scope and the influence of both the state and the federal and local governments in people's lives, and knock down the barriers that they erect that keep people from self-actualizing and using their gifts and abilities and their talents to the best of their ability to build a business, to raise a family, to educate their kids. We work every day, both in Michigan and across the country, to try to, again, knock down those barriers that the government seems to like to put in our ways and
Absolutely.
make us have to struggle to provide and use our gifts and abilities that God gave us.
Now, I understand from your answer why you stayed in politics.
Right.
Why'd you get in the first place? What makes you say, I'm going to enter this, this arena and put my name out there and really open myself to some of the nastiest stuff that can happen?
There was a lot of reasons. One of the primary ones was the public education system, the things that were going on with my kids in school at the time, and they're all adults now and started their own families. But 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was, seeing stuff that was happening in their lives, what was happening through the schools, that got me plugged into politics, into being involved in school boards, trying to get involved in school boards, contacting our local state elected officials and stuff like that, and sometimes the federal elected officials. But also being a business owner and seeing that just the sticky fingers of government in my business every single day. And when the government seems to go out of its way to create barriers for businesses to be successful, and so, like in building and remodeling, when we first started our business in '93, with my brother and I started it.
Your twin brother.
My identical twin brother, yeah. So if you see somebody on the street and he doesn't wave to you, it's probably him and not me.
Yeah.
That has happened before. So people might.
I hope he would wave.
I've had to show people my driver's license to prove that I'm not Tom before. So anyway.
We're going to have to get some pictures and we can, do a side-by-side.
Right. But when we started, the code book for building, was maybe this big. Now the code book is that big. And we don't build better homes, we just build more expensive homes.
Right.
So all that stuff together really was edging me towards wanting to be more involved in politics so that I could have a seat at the table when decisions were being made that so dramatically affected my life, my wife's job as a nurse, my kids' schooling and all that. And then COVID hit. And, we had a lockdown, you couldn't work, all the different things that Gretchen shoved down our throats and tried to strangle our economy and everything else, and did a very good job at it. I was vocal in that and pushing back, and was asked to be part of the Unlock petition signature gathering thing.
Beautiful.
For Jackson County, and we collected all those signatures in a record time. They were submitted. We got that through, and during that time, I got to got to know several more elected officials here in Lansing, and the Senate Majority Leader at the time, he and I had a text discussion about some issues, and it got a little bit heated. And I said, you know what, come to my house, or I'll come to your house tomorrow morning. This was on a Friday, and because he'd said something, and I loved Mike to death.
Mike Shirkey.
Yeah, Mike Shirkey. Good guy. But I said, hey, and I got to know him through some other things, through schools and stuff like that. So I had his cell phone number. I said, whatever he posted online or whatever, I didn't agree with it. And we texted back and forth, and I thought there's no way he's going to come to my house tomorrow morning and to discuss it. Because I said, hey, listen, come to explain to me why you make the decisions you're making and that you actually have your constituents' best interest at heart. And I'll sing your praises, and I'll try to support you and help you amplify your message. Like, these are the reasons he's doing what he's doing. Whether I agree with him or not, I just want to know where he was coming from.
Absolutely.
So actually, he showed up at my house the next day. We talked for about an hour and a half on the front porch. And he called me an hour or so later and said, hey, have you ever considered running for office? And I said, yeah, I actually have. And he said, well, you need to think about it, you need to pray about it, and you need to run for office.
Now, why had you considered running for office?
Again, the issues at schools, the issues that were happening in business, the regulations. Like Ronald Reagan said, government's overgrown and overweight, and he said that 40 years ago plus, and it's even worse now. And just grew tired of not having the ability to at least have a voice in a seat at the table in making the sausage. In
I think what you say
the size of government
is so very important, and I think a lot of people watching feel the same way. I certainly feel that way. It's why I'm going on a speaking tour right now, Make Politics Local again. And just people ask me all the time, what are you running for? One, I'm running for a spot in your podcast rotation and your heart, but also I'm running to help the team. And I think what inspired you to get involved and inspired me to get off my couch and I am, not a road warrior in my wiring. God made me that.
Right.
Is just this belief that politics is too important to be left to politicians.
Yeah, and if you go back to the founding of our country and the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, all that different stuff, government was supposed to be about this big. Now it's massive. I think when people say, well, I don't get involved because politics doesn't affect me. Somebody said that to me at church one time, actually. And when I was thinking about running, or maybe it was before I started running, and I said, name me one thing that government doesn't affect in your life or doesn't control in your life. Either state, federal, or local. One thing that you can do without any government interference.
Right.
You can't hardly name one.
No.
Right?
No.
From the material that goes into your mattress, your clothes, the food you eat, the gas you put in your car. And I'm not saying all things from government are bad.
The shower head. I mean, everything.
How much water your toilet flushes. So now instead of flushing it one time, you have to flush twice. Government is not inherently bad, but it's gotten to the point where you can't do anything without getting a permission slip from government.
Right.
And like in our business, when we first started the business, you had to have a business contracting license, right? A residential building remodeling license. Fine, great, whatever. I think we've gone way overboard on what things need to be licensed in this state for people to do their job or use their gifts and abilities and talents to provide for their family. But then a few years after we were in business, they decided, well, not just a person in the business has to have a license. Now the business has to have the exact same license. So you pay for the one person, the business owner. And the theory is, well, if the business gets sold or whatever, then the new buyer might not be licensed and know what they're doing. Well, most small businesses or medium-sized businesses like ours or whatever, when they go away, typically the business is gone.
Right.
But it's just another grift by the government to collect more money in fees. So you get the same license in one person's name, and then the business has a license. You got to pay 2 fees for it. It's redundancy that doesn't need to be there. And if you look at like farming, for example, I was talking to a dairy farmer when I was running for office, and the things that they have to do for the state, local, and federal, and all the redundancies in the health and safety of their products that they're turning out and stuff. I get it to a certain degree, but you shouldn't have to pay for it 3 or 4 times, right? It's just all of that goes back to taking money out of the consumer's pocket and giving it to the government, who mostly does not spend it in the way that we think is the best way to spend their money.
Yeah, I mean, what you learn about in history and civics is a country that was founded on the idea of consent of the governed.
Yeah.
And what you have in the 2020s is you need consent of the governor. It's not what we signed up for. It's gotten stretched. So help people understand. You guys don't just hang out in Lansing and talk to lawmakers. It is grassroots. I mean, there's constant events. You guys are constantly with the community. Just last night, Downriver Manufacturing Forum, right. Mike Rogers was there. Rep. Jamie Thompson was there. Help people understand, A, what your involvement in 24 looked like, which was a successful year. Not only does Trump win, but the Michigan House flips. Yeah. You see him move back to sanity. So set the stage with what that 24 looked like and what 26 is going to look like in comparison.
Yeah, so our organization is the best in the nation at getting people involved at the grassroots level, meaning we are involved in communities all across the state, all across the country. We have offices in 37 states, but we work in all 50 states. And we give people a voice. We help them find their why. We help them craft their message. We find out what issues are important to them and then help them get involved, either being a social media influencer, teach them how to do that effectively.
Yeah.
Teach them how to advocate for themselves in front of lawmakers and committees. Teach them how to be community organizers, to get people involved, to lower taxes or whatever. You pick something. Healthcare, medical freedoms, things like that. So we have the resources to train people and do that. It's all free, of no charge to people. We get the venue, we get the food, we get the instructors, or we do the instructing ourselves, depending on the topic. But we give people a voice. We help them amplify their voice. We encourage them. We walk alongside them so that they can affect change at the state, local, and federal level. On the political side of stuff, though, we also...
if I could stop you for a second, how do people get hooked up with those opportunities?
AmericasForProsperity.org is our website, and they can find us through that. But we are in communities. We have staff. I think there's 15 people on our staff now in Michigan, and they're living in the communities, getting involved, attending events, hosting events like the one last night. When people hear about them, they come to these events, they learn about what we do, and we try to get them plugged in.
Right.
We try not to let people leave an event without having an action item, something to do, like something to get involved with. As far as the political side of stuff, we do work and try to get people elected. As you said, we flip the House, help flip the House in Michigan, the only state in the country to do that in 2024. And we do that by door canvassing and phone calls and other tactics, mail and digital and stuff like that. But at the base of what we do, the most effective tool we have is ourselves and our grassroots activists going out and knocking on doors and having conversations with people at their door. And in 24, I think we reached almost 1 million doors. This year in 26, doing the same thing, trying to get policy champions elected. My goal, our target is like 1.7, 2 million doors.
That's incredible.
We feel that that's the number that we need to get people out, turned out to vote for our candidates, vote for policy champions that are going to reduce the size and scope and the influence of government. So we do that every day, 365, all year. We don't stop it. We don't work on election cycles. We're here all the time. We're full-time.
It's a life cycle, not an election cycle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, it goes back to the notion of you can't divorce politics and policy from your life.
No.
If you're not involved and you're not trying to make a difference, that difference is going to be made for you. And that's not the way our government was
Michigan
founded.
will reflect someone's values. And so if, say you're one of these anti-government people, I am one of those people. That's why I'm involved, is because ultimately, as we build influence and as we build relationships, we can put the people in positions of power who do the things we want done and don't do the things we don't want done. We could actually change Michigan. I mean, when you think about what's at stake in 26, right? Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, the entire Michigan House, the entire Michigan Senate. That's 151 potentially new faces that could be in Lansing next year. We only really need about 10 to 15 new faces to change the place. So you look at Washington and it can look hopeless. It's a very different story in Lansing. It's a very different story in your local community. And that's what we're hoping to impress on you, is that the more you get involved, the more of a say you will have. But there is no scenario where government's just going to go away and shrink itself. And no. if that's going to happen, it's going to be because people like us make it happen. So if I could hop off the soapbox, 26, I call it the ultimate battle for Michigan.
Right.
I call it a loser leaves town match, especially if you're a right-thinking person who wants a future. Set the stage. Help people understand the importance of this election, where you have 4 statewide positions with no incumbent. And like I said, we get to bring in a new cast of characters. Help people understand that this does not come around every day.
It does not come around every day. There's a lot of great opportunity here. You mentioned the federal Senate, the Secretary of State, the governor, all of that, and plus all the state house and state Senate, the congressional races. Michigan needs to decide if it wants a government that continues to grow. For example, Gretchen Whitmer took office, the budget was $54 billion.
Right.
It's now close to $90 billion if she would have her way. Government left to its own devices would just devour everything in this state, and we would have nothing to show for it. Do you want a government that's going to continue to grow and continue to take more of your money and can take more of your opportunity to make a difference in your life and take more of your decision rights away from you? Or do you want a government that says, here, this is yours, you steward it as best you see fit? That's what's at stake. And the federal Senate race with Mike Rogers, he came really close last time. Our Americans for Prosperity Action endorsed him. We endorsed him again this year. He's a conservative. When he was in Washington, he cut a budget on the committee he was on. Most people don't do that. They want more money. He cut the budget.
Absolutely.
He knows how to do that. He's a fiscal conservative. He's got a lot of great qualities. He cares about you as a person, right? My goal with AFP and AFP broadly is to shrink government. The people that we are going to champion in all these different races are people that want more freedoms and opportunity for you. And I can't stress enough the importance of people to get back involved in politics and pay attention, because there are some very extreme radical ideas on the left, on the progressive side of the aisle, that don't want you to have a say in anything.
No.
They want you to be in a nanny state where they make every decision for you. They want you to have nothing, and they want you to be happy. And you can look at all their social media posts. You can look at their voting record at the state and the federal level, and you can see that. You can't walk away from your voting record. You can't walk away from things you've said. They want you to have no say in what goes on in your life.
You will own nothing and love
happy.
it.
Right.
You will have no say. You will read the same list of talking points that they get and repeat those. And it doesn't matter how they conflict with yesterday's.
No. Because
there's only today.
Yeah.
There's only what you've been told right here, right now.
And the beatings will continue until the morale improves, right? That's their mentality.
Yeah.
You look at New York, the person that they just elected. He's going to give everything away for free. And most people have been taught, or have not been taught in the education system in the last 30 years, how government actually works. It's not the government's money.
No.
It's my money.
It's your money that's taken by the government.
Yep.
And when you look at scandals like the Somali scandal in Minnesota, when you look at all those USAID scandals, when you look at the corporate welfare that's given to nonprofits and politically connected businesses in Michigan, the problem with all of it is that this is government taking money from you and saying, we know best what to do with it, while also having no safeguards for who gets it or what they do with it. And so, to me, that's closer to evil than a system of government. And we need to elect people who think that there's a different way, who realize, like, that's not their money to make their wish list happen. If you want to spend money and you, like, start a business. Start a business. But what we have in Michigan is a lot of these government billionaires, I call them. Government billionaires like Gretchen Whitmer, who, if you want to get your name in a press release with GM CEO Mary Barra, give her some state money. And so now the average person's going to read that and think, man, our governor has a hand in probably every job that's created in Michigan, when the exact opposite is true. So we're just trying to bring things back to first principles, back to a place where you didn't look to the government for sustenance, you just wanted it to get out of the way.
Yeah, the government is supposed to protect our rights.
Right.
It's not supposed to do what it's doing. And Michigan's horrible at corporate welfare. And last year they did really well with Speaker Hall.
Yes.
Speaker Hall did not cut a bunch of checks to businesses, thank God.
So the first time in this century.
Yeah. And if you look at historically, the money that has been doled out to corporations and subsidies, tax breaks, whatever, handouts basically, the return on the investment is less than 10% of the jobs created that were promised.
Right.
We're hemorrhaging money with no accountability. And if you look at other states that don't do that, that have lower property tax, that have lower income tax, lower corporate taxes, those states are thriving.
Right.
There are jobs going to those states that could be here, but they're not, because the climate for business growth and business starting a business here or growing a business here it's just not here.
And that I think is an important point, where corporate welfare doesn't create jobs, it creates headlines for politicians.
Yep.
A. But B, it also masks a bad business environment. The question I always ask is, if Ford and GM need hundreds of millions of dollars from the state to continue doing business, what does mom and pop need?
Right.
Why would our biggest companies need that much help?
Companies that are run well, that provide a service or a good that people want, will be successful, because
Right.
the market will make them focus on creating a better product, a cheaper product, a less expensive product, or whatever. When the government mandates things, everyone loses. That you can't point to a time when all these government mandates have ever benefited anybody. Again, the jobs aren't created, the product isn't as good, it makes everything cost more, right? Like at the green energy mandates and the EV mandates and stuff like that. People don't want electric cars right now. They're fine to have. I'm not opposed to people having them, but don't mandate that we have to drive electric vehicles.
Right.
Or that we have to do...
That was our government, state government, and they were working at that time in conjunction with the feds.
Yeah.
That was Biden and Whitmer essentially trying to create a market. Whitmer doesn't talk about it much anymore, but at one point she was talking about, I want to see 2 million electric vehicles on Michigan roads in 2030.
Yeah.
There was like 32,000 of them at the time.
Yeah.
That couldn't have happened but for government action.
Well...
And who says that they get to pick?
Exactly. I don't want the government to tell me what type of stove to use, what type of car to drive, what type of anything. I want to pick that on my own and what fits me and my family's needs. Ford built that EV battery plant down in Tennessee. My son-in-law and my daughter moved to Tennessee. He was building that building for his company, was building that 6 square mile Ford plant. And it was really cool to see from start to finish, like from dirt to the buildings they built in 3 years, whatever. Oh, Ford got done with that, and they're like, no, we're not doing it anymore. We're giving it back to the Koreans or whatever. So, first of all, that plant should have been built in Michigan, period, right?
That was a big blow when we didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, all that money, all that, people don't want the electric vehicles, and that was, Ford walked away from it. I'm not saying don't build electric vehicles. We need energy of abundance from all sources.
Build whatever you want.
If you
just don't ask for government help.
Right. If you let businesses innovate on their own and come up with products that people want, they will constantly work to make those products better. And if you mandate electric vehicles, then people aren't going to be working on combusted or fuel, combustion engine, internal combustion engines, and make them better, make them more efficient, make them burn gas better. I mean, people will continue to innovate. Look at Apple Computer, right? They didn't do that because the government cut them a check. They did that because they were creating products that people wanted.
Right.
And they were always making them better. But when the
now they have $1 trillion
mandates
in the bank.
Yeah. When the government mandates something, you don't get something you get an expensive, less reliable product usually.
So May 5th, I love that there's these kind of checkpoints, flashpoints along the path toward November 3rd, because to me, I look at May 5th as a huge test of strength for the movement.
Right.
When you look at the special Senate election in District 35 in the Saginaw Bay area, we've fought wars. The American Revolution was fought over taxation without representation. Right. And here you have this district where our governor let it stay open for 200 days without even calling a special election, then calls the special election to happen in May the next year. So now we're into like the 400s, almost 500 days. They're going to go 2 budget cycles basically without having a senator in the Saginaw Bay. Given that Gretchen Whitmer, in her first term, they signed 1,000 laws with Republican leadership all across Lansing. Given that history, there's no real reason to fear that a Republican would win the seat, because even if they did, history says they'd work with you. What's your read on why it took her so long to call this special election?
I don't know. Abstinence, for example, when those two state lawmakers vacated their seats to go run for mayor in their towns, she backfilled those right away, right?
Right.
I do think that I think it was an issue of fear of that would be taken over by a Republican, that seat would be, and I know Republicans have typically worked with her on a lot of stuff, but I think she was just afraid that it would be no longer a Democrat-held seat. And hopefully it won't be. It'll be a Republican seat or conservative seat, but I think that was her biggest fear. And I mean, I don't think she's ever said why she waited so long.
I have kind of two theories, but it's really the same theory. One, she didn't want Bill Schuette, the state rep, to slide into that Senate seat. And two, she knows that Schuette or whoever would win the seat is a different type of Republican than were elected and then were serving with her in that first term. And that the Matt Hall type Republican that we're seeing, the Speaker of the House, this generation aren't looking to cut as many deals.
Right.
They're not looking to be, taking selfies with the governor. And so I think she understands that it's the Republicans for Whitmer, which mysteriously popped up right before the 2018 and 22 elections, that's a dying breed in Lansing.
That's probably pretty accurate. I think the Republicans are getting tired, and especially Matt Hall, and I commend him for the work he's doing and
Absolutely.
pushing back. Like he is, he's doing the job that people elected him to do, and the conservative people elected him to do. Like shrink the size of government, give me more of my money, give me more freedoms and opportunity. And you're probably right. That was probably her thought process. Man, the Republican that might get that seat might not work with me as well. And you know what? I'm all for bipartisanship. There's a lot of things that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle can do well together, but not everything, right? There's some things that I don't want. I don't want the government having more control over my health care, my education. I mean, if you look at every metric in Michigan, it's going in the wrong direction, and education is the first place to look, right? When we go from, 18th or something to 44th, you are setting kids up to not be successful. You're setting kids up to fail, to a life of crime, probably. I mean, look at the statistics of people in jail or haven't been in jail and have problems with crime. There's the direct line between their education level and what they can read and write and do math and their propensity to commit crimes. We are setting kids up for failure when we don't have our education in order. And those are things that I don't think conservatives should bend on.
No.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't, Gretchen Whitmer can't say that she's done a good job with education. Everything that they have done, getting rid of the accountability, not letting parents choose exactly where their kids want to go.
These systems were gutted intentionally, made worse.
All for the benefit, quite frankly, of the teachers' unions. And the teachers' unions dump a ton of money into politics. And usually, those are not things that conservative people want happening in their education system. And there's no better metric to look at and proof than the fact that we're now 44th, 45th in the nation for reading and writing and arithmetic.
Where I live in Southfield, the high school, so, nice enough school, but recently they installed metal detectors, which is never a good sign in a suburb. A few miles north on Lasser, you have Brother Rice High School. And I'm imagining with these voucher scholarships that Trump has made that are tax refundable, that same parent could say, I'm going to donate $2,000, get that as a tax refund, and help at least defray some of the cost of going to a better school and a safer school. And our governor has not opted into that.
Shamefully, you're right.
So, I mean, we keep being told that this 26 is a midterm election, and I hate that phrase because it assumes that Trump is the main character in politics, when I think of this is more of a state election, which means Whitmer is the main character. How do we tell the stories of the damn roads, the damn schools, and the damn data centers such that people understand these last 8 years were really rough for Michigan?
We tell them by doing the things that Americans for Prosperity does best, and that's building communities and talking to people and actually literally talking about these issues and giving them an opportunity to talk to their elected
Conversation
officials.
by conversation.
Right, and getting people plugged back into the fact that your vote does count, right?
Yes.
In the 44th district, I think it was in 2024, that race was won by 70 votes. One of the Senate races in 22 was won by 300 votes. A Senate district is 250,000 people roughly. every vote matters, every voice matters, every thought matters, and we need to get those things amplified and out there. And I forgot where I was going to go with my other train of thought. But
We'll clip that out.
The notion of the government having another 8 years based on Gretchen Whitmer's thought process is frightening to me. It's scary.
I always say if Democrats were to run Michigan for 16 years, there wouldn't be a year 17. This is it for us.
Yeah.
And so the other half of May 5th, we have the Senate special election, which a little worrisome because in the primary, Democrats got more votes overall than the Republican candidate did. And so for that to happen, when Republicans should be the aggrieved party by the delay, a little worrisome. But the other part of May 5th is millages, millage votes across Michigan. What's your read? Like, so we see them sometimes in May, sometimes in August, even in February, when most people who vote in November.
Right.
What is your read on the why of the May millage?
It's 100% intentional because they know that most conservatives stay home and don't vote in those elections. And they can get those millages passed in those May elections, for example, because the Democrat or the more progressive left side of the aisle turns out to vote more. They're paying attention more. They're more typically more union involvement, whatever the reason. But they purposefully do that so that they can get those millages passed. If they had most millages in November, I am 100% convinced they would not pass. Because most conservatives don't pay attention to politics all the time.
Right.
They're busy with their jobs, they're busy with their lives, they're busy with whatever. And quite frankly, they don't want government in their life, so they don't think about government as much as maybe on the left side of the progressive side of the aisle. They like big government. They want to live in a nanny state. They want someone to hold their hand from cradle to grave.
Because they think they'll benefit from it.
Right.
They think you'll pay and they'll benefit.
Right, exactly. And that goes back to the whole notion of people not understanding how government is supposed to work, right? They think it's free money that just gets printed and, the government will just give me more money. Well, it's not the government's money. But the thought of that, people not knowing how the system is supposed to work, not paying attention, is why they put those millages in the May elections, because that side of the aisle typically turns out more because, again, they want more of your tax dollars to push their agendas through.
You know, I think often about... so I live in Oakland County, and when I would give speeches in my community, oftentimes I'd run into this woman. I'm not going to call her name, but she would be there collecting signatures for her run for probate court judge. So she's trying to get a circuit court judgeship, not an overtly political role. And she would come to Republican meetings trying to, gather 5, 10, 15 at a time. She'd sit through speeches given by guys like me. Meanwhile, she's donating to Mallory McMorrow and Jocelyn Benson and spending time with big labor. And that, to me, was a cautionary tale of how serious Democrats take the political process.
Yeah.
This lady will come listen to me hoping to get 7 signatures. Meanwhile, I have to beg and plead with you to vote no on a millage that would raise the taxes on your house.
Yeah.
How do we, because my theory is that the left is maxed out. The reason they're so afraid of the portal to non-citizen voting being closed off is because that's their final frontier.
Yeah.
They're maxed out. There's as much hysteria as they can raise, they have raised, whereas we have all the upside. How do we exploit that upside of the person with conservative wirings who's not showing up regularly?
Again, it's simple. It goes back to the James David Dixons of the world and the AFPs of the world going out there and having conversations and really offering to take people to the polls, offering to take people to educational seminars. I was talking to somebody the other day and I invited them to a seminar that's about data centers.
Right.
Like, don't make a rash decision until you have more information, and that goes to a lot of different things in life. If you want to know how to think about those things, learn about them. And we give people the opportunity to learn about those things and get involved and excite people and get people ready to go out and cast a ballot and cast a vote for things that matter to them. And again, we don't always win. Nobody wins all the time in any relationship. And government politics is a relationship.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to compromise from time to time. I'm not saying give up on your core values and what you would die for. Never give up on those, no matter what you believe. But there needs to be compromise. But we need to have these conversations with people we don't always agree with. You need to talk to your neighbor that you may not agree with on everything, but talk to them about the property taxes. Mm-hmm. Talk to them about solar farms or energy unreliability and green energy mandates that are going to cost more and be unreliable. You have to have those conversations. And people used to build really big porches, right? Why? Because they sat together and they talked and they communed together. They broke bread. The community
like
was
you
the
did
family.
with Mike Shirkey.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, don't be afraid to have the hard conversations. You don't have to have all the answers, but you need to listen so you can have a good point of view on all these different things that do dramatically affect your life. So again, when people tell you that policy and politics don't affect their life, don't yell, scream, and tell them that they're 100% wrong. Ask them why. Why do you believe that? Show me how that's true. You can't. The government affects everything you do. But if we're not willing to have these conversations, and that's, again, what Americans for Prosperity is really good at, is talking to people. At the doors, through podcasts, through mail, we have conversations, or we do things that lead to conversations with people. And then those conversations leads to people growing in who they are and how they understand government and how it's supposed to work. Most people, again, have been taught in the education system that money's free, government has your best interest in heart.
School lunches are free.
Everything's free.
Bombs for Ukraine are free. Everything's free.
Yeah.
Which really means it's paid for by money confiscated by force from taxpayers or printed off and taken from your grandkids.
Yeah. I'm going to be in Boston. Our organization's going to be in Boston next week. And on tax day, I'm going to dump some tea in the harbor.
Oh, please do. And please get it on video.
I will. And people need to get a better understanding of where we came from, why this country was founded, how it was founded, what our principles, our guiding principles, our North Stars are. And if we don't have that foundation and that to stand on, we will be pushed and pulled and swayed by every wind of change that comes along. This notion of socialism, and we just haven't done it right. Show me anywhere in the world where socialism or communism has ever worked. But when you have a population and a generation of people that have never been taught the evils of socialism and how good capitalism and our government is, the way it was formed, right, originally, the representative republic, if they don't know the difference between the two, they're going to always lean towards, I don't want to work for anything, give it to me for free. That doesn't work. It never has and it never will.
And that's rat poison.
Yeah.
That's rat poison. Yeah. And, we just talked about this, the audience. I mean, there's this idea out there that what does the Republican Party, or forget the Republican, what does a conservative movement, let's say, what does any movement have to offer young men? And what I see of young liberal men is they're being offered rat poison. The rat poison that you can be comfortable. And the front end of you will own nothing is nothing will be asked of you. And so your manhood is going to atrophy in these environments. Men rise to expectations. When I look at the conservative movement, not the most effective people always, but what I see is a chance to make your voice heard, territory to be conquered, right? If you're not satisfied, I think J.D. Vance, the vice president, just said it perfectly the other day. If you're not satisfied with what's happening, get more involved, not disillusioned and pull back, because what they want you to do is pull back and think that nothing could ever change and that your voice doesn't matter. Right. Caring is a radical act.
Yeah. And these people across the state and across the country that say, well, I only have one candidate that I care about on the conservative side. And if he doesn't get elected, I'm not voting for the other person.
Ridiculous.
That's voting for the person that you don't want to be in charge to control your life for the next X amount of years.
Right.
If your preferred candidate doesn't make it through the primary, get behind the one that did. I'm talking about good aligned candidates.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about some nut job. But if we're not willing to be stretched, to be pushed, and to be challenged, then life is kind of like meaningless and boring, right? And these different challenges that come up in our lives, that we should use those as opportunities to grow and to get, like to your point, get more involved. If something's making your life uncomfortable,
speak up.
Speak up. Get involved. Find somebody that thinks like you, because I guarantee you, there's people that think like you. They just
you are not alone.
Right.
And that's what this COVID era, people are so isolated, people are so online. They might think I'm the only one who feels these things. No, you're not.
Right.
And that's the power of us touching and agreeing, and that's why that was shut down for so long. But what you were just speaking to with the different approaches, I call it the Hoffman rule. Our friend Anna Hoffman. Vote for who you like in the primary, vote against communism in the general. We have to keep our eye on the ball and understand who the real enemy is, and it's not someone you agree on 85% of issues with. It's the people who want to ruin your kid's school, and it's the people who've passed a European-style tax code while delivering South Africa-style services. Keep in mind who the real enemy is. Keep in mind some perspective, right? I heard so many people say they would crawl over broken glass to vote for Donald Trump. Haven't heard one person say they would do that for their kid.
It's telling.
It's very telling. Let's talk about this Senate District 35 race. I think it's fascinating. What do you make of the Democrats showing up in larger numbers in that primary? Why would that be even after this long disenfranchisement?
Again, I think that side of the aisle does a better job of getting their people out to vote. They want more free gifts from the government. Free, right? They turn out in bigger numbers, always do, always have, always will. Hopefully that's going to change with our work. But there is a marked difference between the two candidates that are running for that office right now.
Help break that down. So on the Republican side, you have Jason Tunney,
Yep.
Businessman, lawyer. And then on the Democrat side, you have Chedrick Green, who is a Marine, I believe, and a firefighter, and a graduate of the Joe Biden Speaking School.
Yeah, there were some blunders in his last performance, public speaking. I kind of...
You got to think there's a reason they've been hiding the guy, right? I mean,
well, that could be.
They've had him in a cocoon. The one day they let him out to go on the debate stage, the guy couldn't get a sentence out of his mouth.
That's true. And I try to be a little bit graceful in that because the public speaking...
Because you don't want it to happen to you.
Well, right, but I want serious people to be elected to office. I want people who have business acumen, people who know how to look at a spreadsheet, a balance sheet, or whatever, and see where the money's coming and where it's going. I don't have confidence in their candidate based on things that I've seen him say, do, and put out there. I'll put it to you that way. I don't know the guy. I do know Jason Tunney. I think he'll be a fantastic elected official because he does have experience from mopping a floor in a factory, and he worked his way up in his family's business and had a law degree, but he started at the bottom and worked his way up, even when he had those things, because he wanted to learn every aspect of the business.
Right.
He wanted to rub shoulders with the people who were making the product, basically, and then be at the position to run the company or do the things he did, because he knew what was going on the shop floor. I want people like that in business or in politics because they know what it's like to build something, to make something, to provide for a community, to provide a product and a place where people can work, where they can take that money home and pay for their kids' soccer camp. I want people that have that background. And I think Jason Tunney is a serious candidate. He's a nice guy. He's affable. You can talk to him. He will be the candidate that people will get behind and can see his work. His voting record will show that he wants lower taxes, more opportunities. One of the things that got him involved in politics was COVID and seeing how that affected their business.
Yes.
Right?
No one ever imagined when we elected Gretchen Whitmer, when Michigan, I did not personally take part in that. When Michigan elected Gretchen Whitmer in 2018, nobody imagined that we were electing someone who was going to say, what you do to support your family is not essential. What you do is essential. You can work.
Right.
You can't work. Or that the governor even had the power to do any of that.
Right.
It is incredible how far it's gone. And so help us understand this. We all know how important the 35th is. What's AFP specifically doing in the 35th to get him across the goal line? Tunney.
Yeah, so we've endorsed him. AFP endorsed Jason Tunney. We are doing a layered approach like we do in all races with door canvassing, phones, mail, digital, all those different things to show that Jason Tunney is the preferred candidate for conservative values and principles. Again, it goes back to getting in front of people. If we can't get in front of you at the door, we're going to send you a piece of mail. If we can't get in front of you with a piece of mail, we're going to try to get you with a digital ad. All those things come into play. We invest all those resources across all the races that we get involved with. And we're very targeted to the audience we want to speak to. You know, we want to turn out the base that don't typically vote, and we want the swing audience to realize that Shedrick Green or Jason Tunney, these are the differences. And like, not hardcore, slamming one or the other, but this is what
just
you get.
Compare and contrast.
Yeah, the good and the bad. Which one do you want? Do you want more government? Do you want less government? Do you want more money in your pocket? Do you want less money? Do you want more medical freedoms for your family? Do you want more educational freedoms? One size does not fit all in education, and that's been borne out 1,000 ways from Sunday all across the country for decades. We want people to be able to educate their kids in the way that best fits their kids' needs. One candidate wants that, the other candidate doesn't. Those are the things that you need to look at, and those are the conversations that people need to have in their workplace, at their place of worship, in their schools, at their coffee shops. For years, don't talk politics, don't talk religion. Well, guess what? All those things shape who you are. You can't divorce your life from those
And when
things.
you leave the battlefield, that leaves a vacuum that others then fill. And so they raise up religions of their own and idols of their own. And so that's exactly it. A book that changed my life when I was 17, it was called Stand Up, Speak Out, Talk Back. And that's obviously my approach to life now. And I wish everybody could read it, because sometimes we're told we don't have the right to speak on certain things because you're a man, or because you're black, or you're white, or whatever the case may be. No, you're one of God's 8 billion children, given your intelligence and your demeanor, your disposition for a reason and not no reason. Use your voice. Michigan needs to hear your voice. The people you're running for office need to hear your voice. And so part of what I do, is with Make Politics Local again, is I try to get the Republican to understand the opportunity and show up. The second part is when an official has actually gotten the job, getting that person to then show up for their voters. How does AFP approach the second part?
Yeah, so once people get elected, we encourage them to do their job. We have conversations with them regularly in their offices or in their districts, both, quite frankly, the state and the federal elected officials. And we give them the feedback of what we're hearing in their communities. Like, these are the things you need to work on. This is what your community wants. What are your thoughts? And then we bring that back. And we also provide opportunities on a regular basis for those elected officials to engage with their constituents. That's important. They need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. We give them the opportunity to have that dialogue. But quite frankly,
which is a chance to get in front of voters that they don't have to arrange.
We do all that. It's a service to the community to show you what your elected official is doing for you, and more importantly, I think, why? Like, why did someone make the vote they did? Have them explain that to you. Maybe it'll make you change your mind a little bit on something. But if people that we champion, or people that are doing things that are detrimental to the freedoms and opportunities that God gave us, that our Constitution protects, then we hold them accountable through different resources available to us, whether that's a mail piece or a town hall or some type of a way to say, hey, you were elected to do X, Y, and Z. Your job is to protect my rights and my freedoms and my opportunities. And when you're not doing that, we're going to hold you accountable. And if need be, hopefully get you unelected.
And so if you're a Lansing politician who happens to be watching this, first of all, thank you. Second of all, feel free to subscribe. But third of all, know that it's not the job of myself, Tim Golding, or any constituent you have in Michigan to support you. It is your job to show yourself worthy of support and to show yourself representative of what we want. And sometimes this can get twisted where people think that it's our job to be a fan club for you. That'll never happen. When you do the right thing, you'll get applause. When you do the wrong thing, you'll get criticized. So this is what you've signed up for. And just know it's out of tough love. We're trying to bring the best out of you. We're trying to bring the competitor out of you. We're trying to help you remember who actually empowered you, as opposed to becoming a nice bridge partner with the Democrats in Lansing, as is your natural instinct. I've thought about this, why it's not, like Lansing is not as contentious as you would think it would be.
Right.
Because think about it, if I'm an elected official, my other 147 lawmakers don't live in my district. So they're not really competition to me. They can't block my future.
Right.
So that turns into more of a collegial relationship. Now we're all on one big team, especially during COVID era. Now we're all in it together, as opposed to representing the people back home who feel that this should be more of a fight.
There definitely is that notion. And I would be remiss if I didn't say there are a lot of great people in Lansing and Washington working very, very hard every day. And quite frankly, I know at the state level, they're underpaid if they do their job. They work a lot of hours. They haven't had a raise in, and I'm not justifying giving them a raise, I'm not saying that, but they work really hard, right? And they haven't had a raise in 20 years. They actually gave themselves a pay decrease back then.
I love it.
But there are a lot of great people that go to Washington and Lansing with the best of intentions, and most of them still have those intentions. That's why we also work really hard to celebrate those wins. When they do stuff and they vote
Right.
in a way that protects my freedoms and opportunities and puts more money in your pocket and my pocket, we celebrate those wins and we let their constituents know what they're doing. What gets lost in the mix sometimes because of the media is so in bed with the other side. Those wins, those accolades, those things that happen, the work that they're actually doing doesn't get talked about, doesn't get celebrated. I mean, I know congressmen that sleep in their office. They're saving money. They're not living, this ostentation, if that's the right word, this lifestyle that's exuberant. There are people that do get really rich in politics, and that I'm not okay with that.
Right.
But I'm telling you, there are a lot of great people that have the best of intentions, and I celebrate them, and I tell them, you're doing a great job. We tell them as an organization. But the problem is their message doesn't always get out. And there needs to be a fight. There needs to be that friction in government.
There does.
You can't always get, like any marriage, right? If you're not fighting once in a while with your spouse, you're doing something wrong, right? You can't always get along. There always has to be some type of compromise and friction. Iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And when those conversations
Yes.
happen in Lansing and Washington, and good bills and policies come out, that's when we all win. But when everybody just rolls over and says, "Oh, I'm afraid to not, I got to worry about not getting elected or whatever," that may be a concern. I get it. But at the end of the day, you were elected and put into that position to make hard decisions.
Yes.
Yes. Your constituents put you there to do what's best for them, not what's best for for you. And again, there are great people, and I wish I could name all of them at the state and the federal level that I really admire for the work they do, because the good ones do it really well and they work really hard.
We were talking earlier about no May Millage, and Rep. Matt Maddock in the House, and now they have a House majority, as a result of the 24 election.
Right.
The Michigan House was actually able to pass a bill saying all future millage votes would have to be held on November. What I think we need to do as a movement, a better job of is explaining to people that Republicans don't control all of Lansing right now. And so sometimes you might try to press your representative. What are you guys doing for us? Nothing's happening. There's no laws being passed. First of all, that's a good thing. Second of all, what the House Republicans are trying to do is pass legislation that shows you what would be possible if Republicans as a whole were to take Lansing. If you had a governor who'd sign the law, if you had a Senate that would partner on the bill, Michigan would be a different place. And so what they're trying to offer right now, with what power they do have, which is limited, is proof of concept. Right. So I'm of two minds where, one, I think it's a great idea, this bill to restrict millages to November. But what I'd like to see us do as a movement in the meantime is say, I don't need a law. I don't need the law to change. I'm going to stand up and say, these May and August millages are unacceptable, and I'm going to show up and vote. I think it's important to get on the permanent absentee ballot list.
Yeah.
So, the scenario I worry about is you're at a Tigers game. It's May 5th. You're enjoying a pop. It's one of those 105 games.
Right.
You're in Detroit, and you get that text, did you vote today? Did I vote? Vote for what?
Yep.
They're raising your taxes, dude. Did you vote for that?
Right.
And you don't even know. How do voters inform themselves, make sure they're not caught unawares, and make sure to show up for these May and August millages?
Well, again, it comes back to us on the right side of the aisle, the conservative side of the aisle, amplifying and letting people know that there's an election. They're not going to hear it from the other side, largely.
You're not going
right?
to get that mailer. They know who they're sending that mailer to.
They absolutely know. They know exactly who they're sending their stuff to. And again, it comes down to people getting involved and paying attention. And, people complain when bad things happen.
But what'd you do to stop it? Right.
Exactly. I remember during some of the different ballot initiatives that have passed that were unagreeable to conservatives. And my first comment to people when they complain about it is, did you go out and knock a single door? What did you do to push back against that evil that you don't like? And most of the time I sat in my room, I sat in a group in an echo chamber and talked about it and complained about it and did nothing that was effectual. That's the problem. And there are so many great things that could happen if we get an aligned House, Senate, and governor in 2026. We're going to see.
Could be a different state.
We're going to see income tax, property tax changes, business tax changes, energy that's both affordable and reliable. There are some great opportunities if we get a conservative aligned majority elected to our branches of government here in Michigan. Short of that, things are going to happen that are happening now. If we keep the House, good stuff's going to happen. Conservative bills are going to get sent to the Senate, and they're going to die.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. And I'm all for bipartisanship. Work with anybody to do good type of a mentality, and we have that mentality at our organization. But you have to be willing to really get down to what does the Constitution say? What is the government supposed to do for people? It's not supposed to get bigger. It's not supposed to take more. It's not supposed to hand out corporate handouts. It's not supposed to enrich the teachers' unions or whatever union. I don't care if you want to be in a union or not, but don't compel people to do that and force people to do that, right? If you want to join a union, fine. But we need to create opportunities and freedoms, and that starts by reducing the size and the scope of and the influence of the government in my life, in your life, in my business, in your business. Once we do that, once we have politicians that understand, and a populace, more importantly, a voting population that understands money's not free, government is not your doctor, government is not your teacher, government is not your parent. It never was meant to be that. When we get back to that, we start winning on a regular basis, and people can dominate, innovate, and thrive, realizing I don't need the government to hold my hand. Never has worked, never will work. All that leads to is more taxes, less freedoms, and less opportunities. And we need to work every single day to claw that back because it's ours. It's guaranteed in our Constitution. We need to get it back.
We'll leave on this thought. I mean, so if you're like many people, you saw President Trump be reelected in 24. House majority, Republicans. Senate majority, Republicans. And then what happened? Not much has happened. The one big beautiful bill, and that's just about it. And so looking at all this with fresh eyes, it's clear to me that Washington is closer to a bad TV show than true politics. And it's clear to me also that the real problems and the real power in politics are at the state and local level. So as we think about No May Millage, that movement, change the political calendar in Michigan so that we're giving a sporting chance to stand up and say, I'm okay with this property tax hike or I'm going to reject this one, and it's not kind of swept under the rug. When we talk about showing up in special elections, my takeaway is that our power matters more at the state level. A lot of people want to get in and get involved at the top. I think there's a lot more you could do. You could change Michigan a lot quicker than you can change America. So if we could go out on this, just talk about the importance of getting involved in Michigan and how we can all have a role in making Michigan a better state.
Yeah, and I think and to your point, you're right. It's easier to change your house than it is to change your community. It's easier to change your community than it is the state. But it's easier to change the state than the federal government, for sure. And there are good things that happen at the state, but at the federal government, but it's getting stuck in the Senate. But I think the best advice I can give people, besides getting involved with AFP, and listening to your podcast, is pick a candidate and pick a policy, pick a topic that are important to you, and then don't stop fighting for that until your last dying breath. And that sounds dramatic, but I think that's where we're in our country, where we need people to actually fight for what they believe in. And if you're on the other side of the aisle too, do your thing, vote, get involved, champion your values. And we can't know everything. We can't get involved in everything. We can't knock 1,000 doors and do podcasts and do mail. I mean, you can't do everything. Pick one or two candidates that you believe in.
Yes.
Get behind them. Knock doors for them. Make phone calls for them. Put out yard signs for them. Do something, right? And again, if they don't make it through the primary, then get behind the person that did. But more importantly, don't be afraid to use your voice that God gave you to advocate for yourself around a policy that's important to you. You're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a garbage collector, you're a contractor, you're an electrician, you're a floor sweeper. There is a bill and a policy or tax, whatever, that's affecting your life in a negative way. And I know you know what that is. Go talk about it.
Yes.
Go knock on your elected official's door and say, hey, change this for me and my family. I want to send my kid to this school. Make that happen for me. It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And
it's not going to happen on its own ever.
It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of willpower. It does not take a lot of money. It does not take a lot of money to get involved in politics and make a difference. I can guarantee you that. Money helps in organizations like ours and others that have resources to do that. That's fine. But you as an individual, you just have to have the resolve and the intestinal fortitude to want to make a difference for your family and your grandkids, to be able to live in this state and thrive in this state and be a state where businesses can pop up overnight and be successful without any government influence, without any government handouts, merit-based everything. Get involved, pick one or two candidates, pick one or two topics that are important to you.
Fight.
And fight for those things.
Yeah. Well, for Tim Golding, this is James David Dixon. This has been the James Dixon Podcast. See you next time.